Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Larry and Mike Show. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce my special guest, Mayor Barrett Pedersen of Franklin Park.
Thank you, Larry.
Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Larry.
Barrett has had his show. You've had a show.
Illinois Issues in Review.
Yeah, and I loved your show.
Thank you.
Can you tell us just a little bit about it before we really get started into the interview here?
Oh, sure. Illinois Issues in Review was a cable access program like yours. And the real inspiration for me starting the program was Bill Wolt, who is probably one of the longest lasting public access users in American history.
Definitely.
He has produced thousands of programs.
Oh, yes.
And I finally started my own that was more focused on public service, government, how it operates, politics. And his was more about shows, Motorsports Crusade. And I did it for about 20-something years and had a large number of volunteers, Norm Morose and Karen Morose, thank you very much, Kevin McDermott and his wife were very helpful, and just hosts of others.
I used to watch your show all the time. I loved
you.
it. You had informative guests and a lot of really great topics.
Well, there were 17 people who used to watch my show, and you were one of them.
I said, Barrett's on. Oh, I'm going to love Barrett's show. I got to watch Barrett's show. And you always had some interesting guests on and always had a lot of good things to say. Okay, let's get into what I was thinking, why I asked you to come on to the show today. You know how a lot of issues come up for villages, my village, your village, and everything like that. And I'm passionate about this. I want to get the people more involved in what's going on and what's being passed, what's not being passed. What ways does, say, your staff or your, get the information out to your constituents?
That's a great question. We have a wide variety of different ways we do it. Obviously, we have a newsletter. We publish that once a month, and we send it out with a water bill so that everybody has to open the envelope that the newsletter's in. Otherwise, they don't get to see their water bill.
Right.
And then we have, obviously, we collect emails and then send information out by emails. If it's a public safety issue, then we have a program called Blackboard that phones all of the phone numbers in Franklin Park and lets them know about a public safety issue.
Okay.
And then we do, we have a Facebook page.
All right.
We get a lot of information out on Facebook, and we get a lot of information back from our residents by Facebook. And then, of course, we have the telephone town hall, which I enjoy doing. It's about an hour long, and all of the land-based lines in Franklin Park are called. The company we use is prohibited from calling cell phones, so if residents want to be involved in the telephone town hall, they can call in. Unfortunately, I didn't remember that number tonight, but if they want that number, call the village, call my office at 847 671 8235. And if you didn't write that down or you can't remember, just call the village hall and ask for the mayor's office, and we'll give you the phone number that you call in on the telephone town hall. That's how we get information out. Getting them involved in other things is a different issue.
Now, you have your own website. Village of Franklin Park has their own website, too. So if they wanted to go to the website, they could, too, because that information would be there also. Is that right?
That's correct. And they can pay bills on the website.
Oh, right. Okay, great.
And they can print out forms. So if they're selling a home, they can fill out the pre-sale inspection form. And we are just in the process now of making these forms so that they can be filled out right online.
Oh, that's excellent.
Isn't it, ma'am? Because then you can read what the form actually says.
That's right. Now, does that go along, Barrett, with the transparency issue I keep hearing all about these days?
You hear a lot about it all over the place.
Right.
And you hear about it in Washington, D.C. You hear about it in the state of Illinois. Illinois has two very powerful tools for the public.
Okay.
One is the Open Meetings Act, which requires that any type of decision or even discussion on a particular issue be held at a public meeting that is opened to the public, and any information that the village has is accessible to the public through the Freedom of Information Act.
Oh, okay.
And so our village clerk is busier than he wants to be responding to Freedom of Information requests, and we get Freedom of Information requests from Chicago Tribune reporters, Washington, D.C. reporters, universities, people that are looking for information maybe to write about. And then we also have people that maybe are concerned about how a contract was issued. Then they can get copies of all of the correspondence, emails that we have, phone calls.
Now that's interesting because, you know, in my village, our mayor sends it out.
Willowbrook.
Right.
Yeah.
Sends it out in the fund guide, like a September, like a quarterly. They did ask, they sent us all a letter, you know, people in my town, what would you like? And I wrote a letter back and I said, you know, this is fine. And our mayor puts a lot of information, like 1 or 2 pages in the beginning of the spring, the fall, the winter fund guide. And for us, that's great. Now, I'm sure we have a website too, and everything like that, like you guys, because, you know, everybody is coming up and running on that. Now, I can't always go to the meetings like they have, I think it's the 3rd Monday of the month or something like that. But if something directly affects where I live, they will send a letter and they will ask you to comment on it. You come to the meeting or write a letter.
Good idea.
Yay or nay. And I have voiced my opinion through that letter, and I write a letter to the mayor and say, you know, you have my permission to read this at the meeting and voice my opinion. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I had Mayor Barrett Pedersen here from Franklin Park is because these local issues really affect the people in your local town. And I think
much more than Congress.
Right, and I think we don't realize that. And that's why I wanted to do this show and have Mayor Pedersen on with us so we can talk about that and let everybody know that these are so important, because I think everybody forgets. Oh, okay, we got the big presidential election coming. We have the local election, you know, the governor, the state representative. That's important too, but this determines your tax base.
Right, yeah, we were talking earlier, Larry, about the presidential election having the most voters of any other election.
Right.
And yet, it's not the one that has the most immediate effect on people's lives. It's the governor's election is, I would say the governor's election is more important than the president. Not that the person's more important, but that people should participate. And as you said, local governments, schools represent probably more than 70% of your real estate tax bill.
Yes, definitely on that. But yet, I definitely agree with you on that.
But yet people see the services that they get on a daily basis much more from the village. Or the city, whatever municipality form they're in. Road repair, snow plowing, street repair, you know, all sorts of things. Water, sewer mains, different things like that. But yet they usually represent much less than 20% of the overall real estate tax bill. But when people are angry about their real estate tax bill, they go to the municipality, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know, in getting back to coinciding with what we were just talking about, we had some issues that came up, and I, or maybe 4 other people, if they said yay or nay, that could either be passed or shelved, and it might have benefited like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 homes in the area. Or maybe it was one extra person that wrote a letter or came to the meeting or something and said, you know, this is not good or this is good, you know, depends on which way.
You would have thought there'd be more people commenting.
Well, but it might have only taken 3 or 4 more people to say no, or 3 or more people to say yes. And then you were part of the system, and you may not even known it, but you did something about it.
Right.
You said, you know, I tried, I wrote a letter, I voiced my opinion. Did it go? I don't know.
The city of Chicago raised Franklin Park's water rates 94.3% over 5 years.
We got ours raised too.
So the village of Franklin Park passed 35% of that along at the last village board meeting, but not after having 4 or 5 months of discussion. So we asked citizens to be part of the Citizens Advisory Committee on Infrastructure. If anybody called in and said, hey, you know, what are you doing about my street? Hey, would you like to serve on the committee?
I think that would be interesting.
So
I think that'd be fun.
The engineer and comptroller had these meetings. The engineer said, here's the condition of the things. The comptroller said, here's the finances. And this committee made a recommendation to the village board that we increase the rates by 35%. And they also talked about the referendum. We can talk about the non-home rule
Right.
referendum that was passed earlier. But then, and then I did a telephone town hall.
Okay.
And then we decided we're going to have a great big physical town hall where we would send a letter out to everybody, and the engineer and the comptroller would have a water rate specialist come out. And we invited all these people to the center at North Park. We expected 100 people. 4 people showed up.
Really?
And the water rate expert
Wow.
was coming from Detroit, and
Oh
he
my
got
gosh.
stuck
Uh-huh.
because of the weather.
Yeah.
So fortunately, he didn't come
Okay.
because there would have been 4 people greeting him.
Well, that kind of goes just with what we just talked about. You
Yes.
know, it's so important that you get in on these issues, ladies and gentlemen, in your own town, your city, your municipality, your village, whatever, wherever you are, because that just directly affects you.
And public officials want input,
Oh, that's great.
constructive.
Yes.
You know, so if people want to go through the budget, we invite them, come and help us decide, how do you want your money spent?
Yeah, and that's really important.
Yeah.
And then maybe the people feel like, hey, they're listening to me. You know, I was part of this. I was part of the process. No, maybe I can't come to every meeting or anything like that, but maybe I can come once or twice. And maybe I said something or somebody else said something, and the village trustees or the members said, oh, well, wait a second, we didn't think about that. Oh, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could try it.
Right.
I don't know.
I think people
you know,
should make suggestions and voice their opinion more often because, as you indicated, it has an effect. Because we've done things. People said, hey, well, have you ever thought of doing this? We used to, during the summer, we used to run a street sweeper every single week. Well, you really need a street sweeper in the spring and the fall.
Right.
And then periodically through the summer, people said, why are you running it during the summer? So what we did is we went to every other week during the summer when there's nothing much going on, and then when the leaves start falling, we pick it up to every week and maybe even every 5 days.
Now, we have something in my area coming up now through the county. Now, this is kind of off the beaten path of the local, but it still affects the local area. And they sent us a letter.
What's the issue about?
They're wanting to build a gun club or skeet shooting club at Hinsdale Lake Golf Course. And it's a nuisance ordinance that wants to be changed, and we don't want it. It's going to be noisy, and what if somebody misses, flies over Route 83 and hits somebody? I don't know. So,
so it's going to be more than shotguns? They're going to be rifles?
Well, skeet shooting is when you say pull and it shoots.
Yeah, but that's a shotgun. It doesn't go very far. Well, never mind.
Well, anyway.
I didn't express my opinion on that. Forget
That's
I
all
just
right.
said
No,
that.
no, that's all right, Barrett. Wait, that's all right. This is what the show's all about. And anyway, I wrote a letter. I hope other people wrote a letter. Now we have a petition. They just won't let up. And then we had some other issues. Somebody wanted to build something right where I lived. And I go, here we go again. And somebody else wanted a sign, and here we go again. But that was voted down. So I don't know I know a lot of people participated, but I was part of that, or maybe you would be part of that, ladies and gentlemen. Do something about it. If you agree, fine. If you disagree, that's fine. We're not telling you which way to do it. But that's the whole part of the process.
People will really participate if it affects them directly.
Right.
And that's where you get the term NIMBY.
Would you like to?
Not in my backyard.
Oh, yes, I know that one. That was used a lot in the papers and everything. Not in my backyard,
Right.
Oh, my gosh, this is so much,
I think
isn't
this
it?
is a great idea for development. Over there.
Over there, not just get away from us,
Not in my backyard.
Yeah, right. Well, Barrett, how has it been since you've been mayor? I take it you're very busy these days.
It's Franklin Park is unique.
Okay.
The residential population is 18,300.
Okay.
But our daytime population is much larger than that because we're right next to O'Hare Airport.
All right.
We're the 6th largest manufacturing center in Illinois.
I know.
And there's always exciting things going on, always challenges, sometimes things that need to be done immediately, and then other things that you work on for a long period of time, like we want to get an underpass in, and that's probably a 10-year process. It's the most difficult job I've ever had, Larry.
Really?
And it's the most fulfilling job I've ever had.
Right. If you can, you and your staff and your board and everything can do something.
And I have a great staff.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because
But you were saying if we can do something.
Yeah. Well, I know the underpass, Grand Avenue underpass. We did a special on that, and we love that. And I thought that was excellent. And you said you're working on another underpass, so that's great. So that would benefit what? Almost everybody in the village that goes through the village or lives in the village. Would you pretty much say?
The tollway is building the Elgin O'Hare Western Axis. It's the new number is 399, I-399.
Okay.
It's going to come through Franklin Park. It's going to give us 70 acre-feet of stormwater management, and it's going to give us an entrance on the 294 right off of Franklin Avenue. But there's going to be a whole lot of people. Now we have a tremendous train traffic through Franklin Park, probably 160 trains a day.
Yes, you do.
And if we can, we've got an underpass on the north-south tracks over on Grand.
Oh, right.
Now we need an underpass for the east-west.
Right.
The problem is finding some place to do it.
Ah.
That's the first one,
Right.
Responsibility.
Feasibility study.
And then going to the federal government and the state government and the railroad and all these other entities and looking for a mezzanine or layer cake level of financing, because you're not going to get the funding from one source. It's got to come from multiple sources.
Could you get a grant?
You're going to have to get several grants.
Several grants to make this work, because you can't hit up the people all the time, right?